And Dr. Royal Lee's most enduring and fascinating work came in the last portion of his life when he got focused on the autoimmune process. And there are two words you don't hear much outside of research, but are becoming very common: auto-antigen and auto-antibody. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Jack.
And Mary.
And welcome back to the Forbidden Doctor Podcast. This is podcast episode 151, Autoimmune Diseases and Forbidden Cures.
Today we're going to talk about some forbidden stuff that's been hidden from you for way too many decades. What we're going to talk about is the answer to a question that was asked by one of our patients in our clinic. They asked, why do your supplements, Aegis Thyroid and Long Life Energy Enzymes, contain gland extracts when you never see that anywhere else? And what does that have to do with autoimmune disease?
Good question. Very good question. So before we get to that, for our regular listeners, the next 4 minutes is our financial stuff, and you can fast forward through it if you choose. But for our new listeners, please listen at least one time so you understand how we do things around here. We want to take a few minutes to talk about why we do not have sponsors.
Yeah, we've been approached many times to sell different products on our show.
But we've always been compelled to resist these financially tempting offers because the work we're doing here is just too important to be beholden to some brand names who could object or even try to gain editorial control over some of the forbidden things that we say.
Yeah, so we would never allow this kind of advertising on our show.
And others have mentioned that while the knowledge we share cannot be found anywhere else, it is often tied to products such as the whole food supplements from the oldest nutritional company in America, Standard Process, which we often reference during our shows.
And this also would include our own Ageless Thyroid and Long Life Energy Enzymes.
Yeah, and so you might ask, could not our own products be creating conflicts of interest? I mean, have we mistakenly created an infomercial instead of free knowledge podcasts?
No. We do this on purpose.
Yes, we do. Years of experience in our clinics. And almost 500,000 downloads of our podcasts have taught us a few things. And the most important is that the type of nutrient-dense foods most of us need to get our bodies actually healing from years of malnutrition are not easily integrated in most of our lives.
Yeah, the quest for excellence in nutrition has never been an easy endeavor.
Yeah, no one wants to eat raw liver. But absolutely no one is going to sign up to eat raw liver daily for 6 months if that's what it's going to take.
Well, some people will. A patient of ours found she was told she had only a few months to live, and refusing that notion, she went home and threw some liver in a blender with a few spices and drank that every day for months.
Yes.
She lived very well for another 20 years.
Yeah, I met her more than 20 years ago when we were both doing a radio show at the same station.
But many people will not do that.
Well, no.
Yeah.
No, so let us be clear. We reference one-of-a-kind whole food supplements from the nutrition company Standard Process because this is a way to realistically nourish ourselves with the whole food and organ meats we would never eat on a daily basis.
And the reason we do our podcast this way is because it has saved our lives and countless others that we've worked with over the years.
So we sell supplements, and we try to give free knowledge away about how nutrition touches every aspect of our lives, and so necessarily these two overlap.
But we want to be very clear here. Some of you may feel real hardship with even a modest monthly donation and cannot afford even a single month's supply of supplements.
So please then, do not buy our supplements.
Or even try to financially support our show in any way if you cannot afford to. This free information will still be yours forever.
Yeah, of course.
And we want you to take it and use it with our blessing.
But if you like what we do at Forbidden Doctor, there are several ways you can still support us.
Yeah, you can leave a positive comments or reviews on our website underneath the podcasts or on iTunes or YouTube, or like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter or on Instagram. That type of support for us is free. It costs you nothing, and we would greatly appreciate it, and it would greatly help our mission.
Yeah. So if you're ready to take your first steps for your own health, take our free symptom survey. and let our nutrition specialists develop a personalized protocol for you. And then try some of these one-of-a-kind whole food supplements for yourself.
Yeah, there's a link for this free survey on the very top red bar on every page of our website, forbiddendoctor.com.
Now, if you already support our show, thank you.
Yes.
And please know that you are the very reason we fight this good fight. Your support makes this all possible. So now, on with the things they don't want you to know.
Yes. So let's get started with some basic ideas and explanations about autoimmunity and your glands and organs.
Yeah, we have produced a product that we named after a great man, Dr. Royal Lee, our long life energy enzymes, that we often refer to as Lee enzymes after Dr. Lee.
Yeah.
And Dr. Royal Lee's most enduring and fascinating work came in the last portion of his life when he got focused on the autoimmune process. And there are two words you don't hear much outside of research, but are becoming very common: auto-antigen and auto-antibody. Now, you all know that an antigen is something outside of your body that comes into you that triggers an immune response. It will trigger an allergy or something else, like
Or a pathogen.
like
or
a flu virus.
or virus.
And when that happens, your immune system recognizes it and creates an antibody. And an antibody will take anywhere from 10 to 14 days for your body to develop it. And it tags that antigen, that virus, that pathogen, with this antibody so that if it ever shows up again, your immune system immediately recognizes it and destroys it without having to go through the incubation period. Now, the terms we're using are auto-antigen and auto-antibody, unheard of when I was born in 1950.
Yeah.
But they're getting to be common terms now because an auto-antigen is an antigen that's created inside your own body. It did not come from an outside source.
Right. Your own immune system makes it against you.
That's exactly right. And the auto-antibody is an antibody that your immune system makes against yourself, against some tissue that's leaking into the bloodstream, where it absolutely does not belong. Because your immune system will see this auto-antigen as a foreign protein, and it happens to be you, and it will attack it even though it is you.
Now, the lymph system is designed to prevent this from happening.
Yes.
We're going to talk about what happens to you when it doesn't work right, when the lymph system does not.
It's overwhelmed or it's sick itself, because any of these proteins are designed to be destroyed and carried away by the lymph system. But sometimes it gets overwhelmed, and sometimes those proteins leak into the bloodstream, and that is not supposed to happen. Now, autoimmunity has two key players: the autoantigen, which has to come first, and the autoantibody, which is the response to the autoantigen.
So it's a reaction, it's an action, and then a reaction.
Yeah.
It's a cause and effect.
Yeah.
And let's back up just for a little
Sure.
bit here. So if you have, for instance, your skin is degenerating, and all the time, our skin turns over all the time.
Yes.
But if it degenerates at an accelerated rate, the lymphs are supposed to take that out, take those dead and dying cells out of your body through the bile, through your colon, out in your stool. But if something is degenerating at an accelerated rate, more than the lymphs can handle, then that can leak into the bloodstream.
Yes.
And that is when you create an auto-antibody.
That's when the 5-alarm fire goes off.
To your own body,
That's
to your
right,
own organ, your own gland.
Yeah, your immune system has no political persuasion, has no religion, couldn't care how much money's in the bank. The immune system
Has no mercy.
It has no mercy and no ethics, and it does not distinguish between what's right and wrong. It just sees what it perceives to be the enemy and goes after it without any mercy. And it could be you. So Dr. Lee was so far ahead of his time, as he explains that in a normal life cycle of an organ, the cells are, as Mary was talking about here, constantly sloughing off, and new cells are maturing and taking their place as part of the organ. But none of these dying and dead cells make it into the bloodstream. They're isolated, and disposed of through the lymph, as you said.
Or they should.
They should be.
Yeah, this is called the reticuloendothelial system, the macrophage system.
Yes.
And macrophages, they surround an antigen, they engulf it and digest it. Whatever doesn't belong, they're the cleanup squad of the immune system.
Yes. Now, to the meat of what we're trying to talk about here, the early endocrinologists, and I mean 100 years ago, before doctors understood autoimmunity or even heard of the word, they practiced an early form of autoimmunity treatment that was called organotherapy. And this was before the advent of synthetic hormones that so dominates endocrinology today.
So organo meaning organ, like therapy for an organ, a
therapy
hurting
by an organ.
by an organ.
By an organ. You're using organs for therapy.
Well, yes, that's what we're going to get to.
Right.
But they're trying to treat, or were trying to treat, a degenerating organ.
Using
Organs. Which we'll get.
So from Harvard to Stanford, from London to New York, the endocrinologists of the day, the organotherapists, as they were called, they weren't called endocrinologists, they were called organotherapists, were medical doctors, and they were using organotherapy with their patients with great success. Now, organotherapy simply means, as we said, using organs to treat organs, and it was everywhere in the literature. But there were big arguments as to what was the causative factor behind the success of their patients' remission from autoimmune type problems.
Yeah, they knew it happened. They just
Yeah.
they were arguing a lot.
And this is even before autoimmune had even been, it was absolutely believed that it was impossible for the body to attack itself. But they knew that there were certain dysfunctions of the organs of the body, especially the glands, that if they were fed glands, some amazing things could happen.
Yeah, Dr. Roy Lee was laughed out of the medical community for this. This was his great discovery. This was so fantastic. And they said, your body would never attack itself. And he said, come here. I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'll show you exactly how it happens. But they wouldn't.
And of course, that's what the organotherapists were addressing.
Yeah. So the argument came down to desiccated whole gland extracts used in organotherapy and whether they were replacing something the body did not have.
So you mean by what they were trying to figure out was by using organotherapy, they figured there was something the body didn't have, and they thought that would replace it.
That was one argument.
Okay.
Yeah. And these desiccated products that they used, like for the liver and the thyroid, pituitary, adrenal, thymus, spleen, I mean, they used all of them, all the organs of the body. And their use actually brought the sick organs for which they were targeting back into normal operation.
And so they did not believe it was a vitamin deficiency or lacking some mineral complex, and they didn't believe it was a lack of protein or amino acids. They believed that there was some other substance here. But then, of course, the discovery of hormones came along, and then, many people believed, well, gosh, this is the new stuff we found. It must be the hormones. It
was the lack of hormones that our glands are not producing anymore.
Yes.
Nobody thought, well, maybe they did back then, but now they don't think, oh, we need to get our gland healthier again so it can produce its own hormones.
No, we'll just use a synthetic.
But little did they know at the time there was practically zero hormone activity inside of those glandular products they were using to address this autoimmune symptoms, problems. There is not a therapeutic level of hormones in a desiccated gland. And we've gone through this many times with our ageless thyroid and even with Amazon.
Yes.
And our ageless thyroid is certified hormone-free. Even though there's not much in a desiccated gland, they knew that wasn't what was causing this almost miraculous recovery of an organ. And by the way, desiccated simply means dried and powdered.
Right. So there were two theories. One said, well, there must be a lack of something they already knew about, like vitamins and minerals.
And the other theory was that like heals like.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't understand why, they knew it worked, and they used it until it was completely pushed aside with the discovery of antibiotics and synthesized hormones like Synthroid.
Yeah, so to put it simply, if you want to heal the heart, you eat heart. And if you want to heal the brain, you eat brain. And if you want to heal the skin, you eat skin. If you want to heal the bone, you eat bone. And if you want to heal the liver, then you eat liver.
Yeah, there was this harmony that the body recognized. So you were not replacing a substance. You were instead stimulating a healing process.
What a difference.
Medical doctors at the time wrote essays about this subject.
Yeah, nutrition books prior to World War II were filled with this information. Not just
Not
nutrition
anymore.
books, healing books, healing
This is
manuals.
forbidden now.
Yeah, but Dr. Royal Lee discovered that it wasn't a lack of vitamins or minerals or proteins or amino acids because, as you said, there was not enough hormone in the glands to create a healing effect.
That's right.
And a chemical analysis of the gland showed that there was, there's some vitamins here and there's some protein, but there didn't seem to be anything nutritionally unique to one organ or gland in comparison to another organ or gland that would elicit the incredible healing effects that they were getting.
Then they had the other question was, why would not desiccated liver heal the adrenals?
That's the whole crux of this podcast.
Yeah. So it is the nucleus of a specific cell that are the triggers for the healing of that specific tissue where they're found in the nucleus. This is so important to understand.
This is the crux of what we're talking about. You see, the DNA that you got from your parents that directed the building of your body also became more specific to different tissues as you developed in your mother's womb, as those first germinal cells ended up becoming organs and glands.
The stem cells, yeah.
And as a part, the stem cells. And as a part of the daily turnover of the cells right now in an adult body in your organs and glands, it requires the exact duplication of a liver cell for a liver cell or a thyroid cell to become a thyroid cell. And it's only in the liver cell or the thyroid cell that the original stimulation to form those unique cells originally while you were still in your fetal stage, they still contain the specific healing stimulation for those same unique cells right now.
So in other words, the DNA-driven stimulus to create your body contains the same stimulus to heal your body.
What a thought.
Wow.
What a concept.
All in the nucleus of the cell.
And because desiccated thyroid does not contain the DNA-driven regulatory healing instructions for the liver, we use thyroid gland to stimulate better structure and function of the thyroid gland. It'll do nothing for the liver.
Yeah, and likewise, desiccated adrenal doesn't have the regulatory healing instructions for the thyroid.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, each gland is unique. Each organ is unique to itself.
Yes.
This is what they discovered when they learned like heals like over 100 years ago.
Yeah, and this incredibly simple method of healing was completely left behind, just shoved aside, forgotten by the discovery of hormones, hormone replacement therapy. And now earlier proven methods of healing are forbidden.
Yep.
So instead of healing an organ, they replace the gland that organ made with chemical stimulation.
HRT.
Yes, and this is so obvious because if you stop using the hormone therapy, then the original problem shows right back up again.
It's not any better.
And worse, the gland may have atrophied to the point that it will no longer produce hormones by itself anymore anyway.
Yeah. So, did you know there's an ancient Chinese remedy for this very problem?
Oh, you mean someone knew about this even before we were born?
This forbidden stuff.
Yeah, there is an ancient Chinese remedy that is now being researched for treating and preventing various autoimmune diseases, including, not the least of which, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, insulin-dependent diabetes, Addison's disease, Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I mean, it may also one day make it possible to transplant organs between mismatched individuals by reducing or even eliminating the risk of rejection.
Wow. This treatment is called oral tolerization.
Yes.
And what it does, it turns off patients' rejection of their own tissue by feeding them small amounts of a protein directly or indirectly involved in the attack by their immune system. So you feed them liver for liver problems. You can Google this. It's called oral tolerization, and you can find loads of research on this very subject.
Oh, a lot of many medical schools, East Coast to West Coast, North to South, have departments that are studying oral tolerization right now.
And it completely stopped the attack on organs, but they missed a huge part.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they were like, they touted as the biggest discovery of all time, and then they went, oh, wait, it only lasts for a little while.
Yeah, because when we stop feeding that stimulus, the real problem comes back again.
Yeah.
What to do about that? Well, we will get to that. In the early tests that they did on human patients, oral tolerization helped a lot of them to actually stop taking steroids and other powerful immunosuppressant drugs that have very serious side effects.
Yeah.
And others have been able to greatly reduce their dependence on these medications, which indiscriminately interferes with the immune response. So instead of subjecting patients to an overall dampening of their immune systems with immunosuppressant drugs, they found that the induction of oral tolerance shuts down only one specific aspect of the immune system, as you said, the part that's causing the disease.
Wow, does that sound safe or what?
So just by real quick review of what we're talking about, oral tolerization is where a particular antigen that matches the auto-antigen inside of you. So let's say your body is attacking your liver. And what they found out is that if they would get the nucleic acids, the DNA and the RNA from another mammal, bovine, sheep, whatever, and give you some form of those nucleic acids, your body would stop your attack on your own liver. But when they stopped giving you that stuff, the attack would start again, because the second part, as you're mentioning, was never addressed and is still not being addressed in the current research.
No, but we do. We address it.
We address it, and that's part of what we're talking about.
And that's the reason, that's the reason we made our HS thyroid and long life energy enzymes. So,
you were going to talk about a patient.
Oh, I thought I already had.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, you're going to mention
a patient we had that has lupus. It was the lupus. I don't know if you know much about lupus, but it's a body.
It's horrible.
My best friend had lupus, and she didn't end up dying of lupus. She died of a stupid medicine she was given, pain medicine. But anyway, it attacked her kidneys, and she had 2 kidney transplants. One of them failed, and she had another one, and of course it attacks the skin, it attacked all kinds of things. But this patient, they said it was attacking her liver, and she was told she had an overactive immune system and wanted to put her on the immunosuppressant drugs. Yeah, she had a perfectly functioning immune system. It was doing
exactly what it was supposed to do.
It was targeting the right thing for the right reason. You cannot have liver DNA in your bloodstream.
Why not, Mary?
Because you could start growing, liver on your kneecap. You could have eyeballs in your pancreas. You would be a monster. So your body never lets it happen. And so her immune system was functioning perfectly to create auto-antibodies to the liver cells that were in her bloodstream. So the problem with this theory of that you have an overactive immune system is never addressed. The foundational reason for her body attacking her organ, her liver, was completely overlooked. And they're not even reading their own literature on this.
Yes, they don't. They usually don't.
Yeah.
The most incredible advances in healthcare today, and I have to include alternative healthcare as well as medical, usually shows up 15 to 20 years after the research proved its inevitability.
Sure.
So, for instance, Dr. Lloyd Mayer, who's an immunologist at the Mount Sinai Medical Center in New York, studying this oral tolerization technique, said that his Chinese-born graduate students that were with him said, hey, this is old hat. He said the Chinese were doing this 4,000 years ago. If a patient had a problem with his pancreas, he was fed pancreas. If a patient had a problem with his liver, he was fed liver. This is in answer as to why we put so much emphasis on glands in our products. We didn't discover this. Apparently, Mary, the Chinese did 4,000 years ago.
Yeah, we're just bringing it to you. And so the glandulars we use in our products contain nucleic acids, the DNA and the RNA that regulate growth. and specific to each tissue in the body, which are released into the cell cytoplasm by the cell nucleus.
Yes.
The regulatory information.
Right. And as long as that free flow of regulatory information from the nucleus to the cytoplasm and all the little tiny organelles inside the cell is unimpeded, you have a healthy cell. You have a healthy cell, you have a bunch of healthy cells. You have a bunch of healthy cells, you have a healthy organ. Have healthy organs, you have a healthy body. When that system is interrupted with is when the disease process shows up. The disease process gets to the point it overwhelms
The lymphs.
lymphs. Then you're going to have an autoimmune condition.
So when malnutrition or a terrible injury happens, or glands stop producing these healing, stimulating factors, or at least greatly reduced, organs simply become dysfunctional.
Very simple.
And this dysfunction can occur on a subclinical level, meaning you don't notice it at first. And it results in hard to diagnose problems.
Yes.
So at worst, that can go on subclinically until you have complete organ failure.
Yeah, so depending on the organ's function, whether it be a heart or a liver or a gland, like the adrenal or thyroid that produce hormones, their ability to function correctly or to produce a normal level of hormones is then greatly reduced by this process.
Yeah, almost all diseases, if not all of them, can be traced back to early tissue malfunction. And this malfunction, if it's not addressed early enough, it eventually ends up as an autoimmune disease.
Yeah, so we did not put glandulars into our products to treat a disease. We put glandulars into our products to achieve what the organotherapists of 100 years ago discovered, that like heals like.
Right.
And when you consider all disease stems from some form of organ or gland dysfunction, it only follows that the healing of that organ or gland allows the body to heal itself from the disease process. For example,
100 years ago, our ancestors would eat these organs and glands, at least weekly, maybe every day. As back then, all our food came from the farm, as opposed to today's food sources comes from these huge, horrible commercial farms
and food processing plants.
Yeah, they're terrible, and the terrible plague we have today of heart disease and cancer and other degenerative diseases was almost unheard of as little as 100 years ago. They didn't have the extensive degeneration we have now.
Yeah, on the national show
Psoriasis.
that I do, the national show I do on Good Morning America on Tuesday mornings.
It's not on Good Morning America.
Excuse me, Radio America.
Well, you wish it was on Good Morning America.
Radio America.
Wouldn't it be cool to get the Forbidden Doctor?
On Good Morning America, yes.
That would
anyway, Doug and I will often talk about, Doug's a couple of years older than I am, the host of the show, and we often talk about, hey, when we were little kids, when we were in grade school in the 50s, there wasn't any sick kids. There weren't any kids with cancer. There weren't any kids with autism. I just remember one kid my entire, probably through high school, one kid that had allergies really, really, really bad. Asthma. He had asthma so bad it interrupted his education. That was it. Out of hundreds, if not thousands.
No brain cancers?
No brain cancers.
Unbelievable. We have brain
defiant
cancer
behavior. None of that stuff. And so if you've followed our podcasts over the years, you know that our primary directive is that healing comes from food, not drugs. So we created our two products, Ageless Thyroid and Long Life Energy Enzymes, with plenty of glandular support for no other reason than to stimulate and support the regulatory function of your glands and organs. And as we have said earlier, the disease process begins with the slow onset of organ and gland dysfunction. And what Dr. Lee discovered is that all disease processes will eventually end up as an autoimmune disease. And I've said this in other podcasts, I want to repeat it again here. The DeBakey Institute in Houston, the fellows and ladies that developed the heart bypass procedures, have recently published reports saying all heart disease is an autoimmune process.
Yeah.
To some degree, the body is attacking its own heart.
Yeah, it's kind of decomposing while you're still alive,
Yeah.
So to put it in perspective, today the U.S. Department of Health describes autoimmune disorders in the aggregate as the largest class of disease and leading cause of disability and death in the nation. So not only did Dr. Lee first identify and explain these reactions over 70 years ago, he also developed food-based supplements to aid the body in reversing the process.
Yeah, so Dr. Lee makes clear, as no one has before or since, that autoimmune disease is less of a primary disease and more of a progression of the disease process. Autoimmune reactions are an inevitable downstream phase in any degenerative process that chronically persists. We all know somebody, oh, this has gone on for ages and ages. How long have you been suffering? Oh, years. I hear that in consultations with patients
because they're, we're, like I've said before, we're in the dark ages of healing. Nobody tries to heal these chronic problems. They try to get rid of the problem or the symptom.
Right.
And so what
symptom management
are here at the Forbidden Doctor is to try to address the reason for the problem.
Yeah, and it can only reverse and resolve the problem. Can only reverse and resolve through restoring the health of the tissues involved.
That's it.
And the glandular extracts that we use at Forbidden Doctor are just clinical tools in that restorative process.
So as we bring this short podcast to a close,
Yay!
We want to send you to agelessthyroid.com for a very simple explanation of what we've been talking about here. And it has graphics, and you'd be able to show it to anybody and say, see, this is the only product for the thyroid that doesn't just have herbs and synthetic vitamins in it. It has glandulars with the regulatory information in them to...
Yeah, you go online at Amazon and look up thyroid support.
Yeah.
Everything is synthetic vitamins and some herbs.
Yeah, and herbs are medicinal. They're not curative. So, some maybe are, but in conjunction with food, this can be a really incredible change in your thyroid health or adrenal health or pituitary or parathyroids or hypothalamus.
So every degenerative disease that has ever been cured has been cured by food.
Yeah.
Your body healing itself, not a prescription drug. And every single degenerative disease is caused by a failure of the immune system to some degree because of some overwhelming environmental poison and especially malnutrition. So to follow the well-proven concept of like heals like, you eat the real foods that Mother Nature made, not the denatured foods that came from some commercial plant.
And if you can't do that or won't do that, who likes to eat heart or liver or pancreas, then supplement with glandulars.
Get me some of that thymus.
Or brains. Yeah, love that. Then you can just supplement, eat it or take it. Our ageless thyroid has the desiccated glandulars of thyroid, pituitary, hypothalamus, and adrenal.
Just where your entire emotional life is centered.
Yeah, looping that whole HPA axis back together. And our long life energy enzymes has desiccated pancreas.
Yeah, so eat real food or take real food supplements that have regulatory stimulants for improved organ and gland function to stave off any autoimmune dysfunction.
So don't forget to go to agelessthyroid.com, and even if you've done it before, you can, again, take our free symptom survey we offer at forbiddendoctor.com. If you're having a problem, at the bottom of the survey, write in autoimmune or thyroid problems or whatever problem you're having, and we'll give you a personalized protocol based on the questions you answered in the symptom survey.
Now, many of you may be finding us for the first time, so keep in mind the protocols on our website and what we're talking about are only available to logged-in users. But you can create an account instantly by taking our free, no-obligation symptom survey. And understand the survey saves you money in the long run because you're not taking supplements you don't need.
Yeah.
And all of this is at no charge to you.
Or you can always call our office at 801-523-1890, and they can help you or just answer any questions we have. So remember, we are revealing health secrets they don't want you to know.
And remember, your patronage of our offers keeps this podcast on the air.
The statements made in this podcast and specific products have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided or any information contained on or in any product, label, or packaging, or this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professionals.
Thank you for listening to the Forbidden Doctor podcast. If you are curious about long life energy enzymes or ageless thyroid, you can purchase them without a membership from our website at forbiddendoctor.com Or get our enzyme formula from Amazon.com by searching the full term, Long Life Energy Enzymes. Don't forget to take our obligation-free symptom survey to get a free personalized supplement protocol recommended for you by Dr. Jack, Mary, or one of our qualified nutritionists. Take the survey, get a call from our nutritionist to create a protocol and a patient login, then use that login to see your own personal protocol along with any favorites you've saved from our symptom library. Remember, our website and our clinic are here for you always.